Hi, I am here today with Jymmy Tolan, and Jymmy is the bassist and vocals, also, right?
Yes.
You contribute a lot to
Yeah.
vocals.
Contribute.
Yes, which I think is great for The Lonely Ones, and it's for UnHinged magazine.
Yes. Unhinged.
UnHinged magazine. So, Jymmy, to start off, I would like to talk about your how you started off a little bit briefly, just a background on your musician career.
I only had one other musician in my family, and it was my uncle. And I kind of looked up to his ability to play an instrument because, as much as everybody in my family was avid music fans, nobody played. So he and I were kind of the trailblazers, I guess is the word for that. Where we kind of, he did it back in the 80s or whatever, and I did it, fairly recently. And I just kind of made it up as I went along. My parents were really supportive and helped me out and helped me get gear that I needed or whatever. And when I was 19, I felt like I'd outgrown my town, Tacoma, Washington. I decided to make my way east to try to make a career, just kind of get kicked out of the nest on my own, kind of fight or flight type situation. And oddly enough, I met Marty, the singer for The Lonely Ones, the first night that I arrived in Columbus.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I was underage and walked into a bar, I won't say which one, and had driven for 3 days straight and fell asleep, walked into the bar and fell asleep in a chair. I was so tired. And Marty, he poked somebody who he thought knew me and said, "What's up with that kid? Why is he asleep in the bar?" And the rest is kind of history, I guess. He and I became fast friends and played together in Boboflex for 5 years, not long after that, and moved forward with Jake and Tommy to start The Lonely Ones.
That's great. That's a great rock and roll story, actually, right? It's funny because I can see that being a point of you guys meeting, because when I met you, it was like in chance like that. We were in a guitar store.
Yeah.
So that's great. I can see it, because you and Marty both always come across as very approachable and social people. So yeah. I really like that about you guys.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
So tell me something. Did you start playing the bass? Did you start with piano? How was that? What was your first instrument?
The first instrument that I owned was a guitar. But like a lot of things when you're really, really young, I wasn't able to apply myself. Right. I didn't stick with it. I just it sat in my closet and kind of rotted. In middle school, I picked up trombone for band. Right. And I don't play trombone anymore, but that really taught me the kind of self-built regimented schedule of how to apply yourself to an instrument and hearing progress, listening and training your ear to hear things.
Right.
And so that lasted until about 8th grade, and then in 9th grade I gave the guitar another shot. Stuck with that, worked as hard as I could on that for years, kept trying to start bands, and was the hotshot musician in my high school with the long hair, and I had bought my own Gibson Les Paul, saved up for it and everything, and everybody was like, "Oh wow, that kid, he's great, he's awesome, he's great." And lo and behold, when you move away from your hometown and you try to play with adults who've been playing for 10, 20 years, being the best guitar player in your high school does not mean anything.
Correct.
And I realized how not good I was, and around the same time I got an offer to play bass in another band prior to Boboflex.
Okay.
And really liked what they were doing. They were kind of in Boboflex's social circle. Right. Really enjoyed what they were doing, liked the guys. They were, all roughly my age, like 19, 20, 21 at the time. And said, "You know what? You can keep chasing this weird guitar player dream that's going to take you 5 more years to develop even, or you can see if you can get something quick on bass and work with musicians that are better than you." And so that's what I did. And I kind of stuck with bass from there on out.
Do you love the bass more than you think that you could love the guitar playing?
What I like about bass more than guitar playing is that it's up to you to decide how much you do, and as long as you understand the interlocking rhythmic aspect between the drums and the bass, and you never let that falter, you can kind of do whatever you want. Nobody, or hardly nobody, has ever pointed out that a song wasn't good live because the bass didn't do what it did on the record.
Correct.
It allows me to kind of craft whatever I want, what I'm feeling on that night. But if the guitar riff is different, people are going to complain about that.
I understand.
And it also allows me to be a bit more of a showman, I guess, than a studious musician, which is my real passion beyond everything. I prefer to jump around like a wrestler on stage and flex and act like an idiot.
And this is exactly the reason why I mentioned your bass playing, and I asked you about it, because having watched you perform, I can see that there is a joy, and there is also this ability to express your showmanship. Mm-hmm. And on the stage, you are like, you can take your eye, I can take my eyes off of you. It's like, wow, how is that? You're so energetic, and it comes across so passionate and so in command. Mm. And that's why I asked, because he has to have like, okay, what is the reason of all this passion that comes across,
It's I guess, we're kind of taught from a very young age to blend in a little bit, go with the flow, don't make too much noise. Not that everybody beats you up if you break that mold a little bit, or you have a little bit more of a flair to your personality or whatever. But I think that being on stage is the one time where that rule is completely removed.
Correct.
And people reward you, and they get that reward themselves when you provide that visual aspect to everything.
Absolutely.
Nobody in the rock industry, or as a rock fan, including myself, has really ever come home and said, man, that band stood still and played perfectly and thought that was a better show than a band that played really well but really knew how to put on a show.
Exactly. And the one thing that I have mentioned to friends before is, like, you go to see a show. Mm-hmm. You don't go to listen to a show, right?
Yeah.
So if somebody as a fan wants to go to a show, they are expecting to have visual entertainment as well as the listening pleasure.
Yeah.
So
I think that's why light shows are so important. If it was just about staring at your hands and playing perfectly, nobody would ever have a light show. What would be the point?
Correct. Yes, I like that. and I think that definitely your band has the visual appeal.
Well, thank you. Yeah.
For everyone, it's great to watch all of you. When I see Tommy on drums, I'm usually ducking to see, like, what is he doing, in his eyes, and all that, because he's so intense as well, and everybody says about the drummer not being, giving enough attention. Yeah. There's no way to not give attention to Tommy, right? And obviously Marty, as a frontman, is spectacular. A lot of passion and energy there as well. So talking about the Lonely Ones now, since this is going to be live performances debut finally because of the delay with COVID, right? Talk a little bit to me about the band itself. What do you want to, if somebody that hasn't yet listened to the singles or watched the videos, just give a brief introduction to the band.
I still haven't gotten the perfect words together to describe it yet, so but I'll do my best. I guess it's like, to me it sounds like if older vintage rock bands came out with the same energy in 2020 as opposed to 1975 or 1987. Right. We have no desire to sound vintage, but we're all very inspired by bands like Queen or bands like Pink Floyd or even bands like Metallica, stuff like that. So I don't want to sound like them, but I like carrying that energy that they brought in a 2020 kind of format or design.
Okay. So There are 2 singles out right now, and you have videos for both of them. And the videos are amazing. I was really, when the first one came out, there was a whole like expectation, like, okay, this is gonna come out, and it blew everybody's mind. Great production, storyline, great song, obviously. And then you have something else coming up soon.
Yes, we do.
Right? Can you talk to us about that?
Yeah, I mentioned Queen earlier as an influence, and we're going to be releasing on July 7th our cover of, it's a medley actually, it's Flash Gordon and a very deep cut B-side by Queen called The Hero. Flash Gordon's obviously the more famous of the two. And we're going to be releasing that come July 7th. We've always listened to Queen religiously, loved it, can't get enough. We feel like we've taken a lot of influence from them vocally, and so it felt like kind of the natural progression of the band. If we're going to do a cover, it doesn't make sense to do a Nirvana cover or something like that where we're not playing to our strengths.
Sure. And for people who are going to be looking for this release, they follow your page on Facebook.
Yes.
There will be a link there, or is it going to be?
We keep everything pretty up to date on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Those are the big 3 that we stay really active on. TikTok as well too. Jay does TikTok. I don't know anything about it. And then the video will be released on YouTube, but we do a pretty good job and try pretty hard to make sure that if you follow the band on any platform anywhere, that you will have it shoved right in your face.
All right,
you won't be able to miss it.
So we will be looking forward to seeing that.
Yes.
And so let's talk a little bit about the performances then. So you have a few shows scheduled.
Yes. So due to COVID and restrictions on, businesses that we could use as rehearsal spots, we haven't rehearsed in 2 months, 6 weeks, something along those lines. But we finally kind of got everything together enough and got all our preparations made to where we're going to start rehearsing here in a couple days from now. And so we're going to be pretty much hammering it 5-6 days a week, 4 or 5 hours a day until showtime in, was that 3.5 weeks from now?
Yes.
God, that's coming up fast. It's scary. And it's going to be a lot of work. I'm nervous in a way because it's not a Bobaflex show where I've done 700 of them and I know how they go. It's kind of uncharted territory, like all of this has been. So it's almost exciting in a way. It's kind of the same feeling as, like I told you when I moved away from home at 19, and I just went out in the world. I had no idea what was going to happen. That's how I'm feeling about the early stages, especially the live show for the Lonely One stuff.
Right, but it can't be that much unknown territory because you have already extensive working relationship with those guys, and in that sense it has to be comforting, right?
Yes, that's why that exact relationship and that comfort is exactly why we decided to do it as a 4-piece. We kicked around the idea of having Marty just sing lead and maybe trying to find a guitar player, but pretty quickly we came to the decision that I didn't want to have to rely on somebody that I didn't know, an unknown variable. So we would rather just have Marty sing and play both. But even that aside, to compare it to Bobaflex, the entirety of the time that I played something like 700 shows, there was only about 25 songs that we would keep sharp on, that we would trade in every couple months or whatever. So even if we didn't touch something for a long time or something was new, it wasn't that new. All of this is completely new. There's no like baseline of everything that I can fall back on. So it's cool though. I'm nervous in a good way.
Yeah. So it's existing relationship but new material.
Yes. Yeah.
Right.
It's like almost like having a friend, but this is the first time that you have moved into a house with them or something.
Yes. Understand. Yeah, that's actually a very good explanation. I like that. Talking about places for future performances. You have a few scheduled. Do you remember by the top of your head, like where you're going? Not necessarily the dates, but the spots.
Let's see. I'm trying not to name any of the ones that we have booked that I can't announce yet,
Okay.
because there is more than what is publicly announced. But
Alright.
short of the Ohio show in July, everything else we're doing is starting in October.
Alright.
And there's Battle Creek, Michigan, Akron, Ohio, Janesville, Wisconsin, Ringgold, Wisconsin, a town in Indiana, Mishawaka. I don't know how to say it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's all I'm coming up with off the top of my head. Hopefully I'm not forgetting like the one show that I'm supposed to tell everybody about.
No, it's okay. So, of the you have toured extensively with Bubba Flax. Is there like some spots that comes to mind as like big following, great energy?
Yeah, we're really looking at hitting the greater Madison, Wisconsin area, along with the Columbus, Ohio inner metropolitan area, whatever you would call it, and really kind of planning our moves there. We're getting near those areas with like the Pataskala show and then a Janesville, Wisconsin show, but we really, really are being particular about how we first step foot in the deep end, because those are areas where Bobaflex was, for lack of a better word, famous. You know, we weren't just a rock band that was out hustling. We had reached a lot of success there, and I don't want to do something wrong inside the 270 belt.
Right.
You know, I want to make sure that I've got everything tip-top shape. I'm not gonna play it until I know that our show is perfect and that everything is T's crossed, dotted I's and whatnot.
Yeah, I have no doubts that you're gonna get to that point rather quickly.
I think so.
Based on your experience and your dedication. And I have to say, you guys always look so ready for photos every time I see you.
My favorite quote, one of my favorite quotes of all time is actually by, God, why can't I remember his name? It's a rapper. I'm totally blanking on his name.
I don't know rapper.
He says, if you stay ready, you never have to get ready.
Yes.
I took that to heart. I think he was talking about a gunfight, but I took it as a fashion thing. I like it. As a fashion
thing. Yeah. I love your style. And, as a photographer primarily, I always look at you guys like, I could do a shoot with them right now. And I love that.
Let's make plans one of these days.
Yes, absolutely.
We need some new promo shots.
Yes, and hopefully something Unhinged going to be able to really enjoy some of your... I love performance, and you have given me some great shots on stage. So, but yeah, we're gonna work on that.
Yeah,
that's great.
Let's do it.
Anything else you want to talk to us about?
Oh, geez.
Anything that you feel like you haven't had a chance to get out there?
There's so much, but there's also so much that I don't know. So I'd hate to put it out into the world and have things change. COVID has really kind of put a hard 90-degree turn on so much of our plans. We were supposed to have the whole summer and fall planned out.
Yeah.
Start playing in April and then just tour all summer.
I would like to ask you something. This might be a little bit specific, okay?
Yeah.
But can you kind of touch up a little bit on how you came up with the Lonely Ones?
The name itself?
The name itself.
Okay. So when Bobaflex broke up, it was June of 2019, and we kept it a secret for a week or two, something like that. And Marty, Jake, Tommy, and I decided that we wanted to continue playing music. This was not the end for us. But we were kind of, we didn't know what we wanted to do. We're going to stay Bobaflex, we're going to start a new band. What was the game plan here? And we actually, oddly enough, the song The Lonely One came first. We had discussed, Marty might remember this better than me, we discussed calling ourselves the Quiet Ones. So we always thought that was cool. We were always told growing up, be careful of the quiet one, the quiet guy. They're always they're always the most violent, they're the most dangerous.
The dangerous, yes.
And I think there might have been a band called that or something. There was some reason why we didn't go with that. Maybe it was because A Quiet Place had just come out or something like that.
Okay.
But we had just, like, in that interim of not knowing what we were going to do, we were like, well, we might as well write. And so we wrote The Lonely One. And it was almost kind of just this unspoken decision where we just went, well, we're not the quiet ones, so we've got a song called The Lonely One, maybe we'll just be the lonely ones.
All right.
It kind of, it kind of took on this thing where I think we didn't choose it because of this, but I think we liked it because there's this, when you're on tour, as much as we tour, there's this inherent loneliness that comes with being surrounded by people all the time when you're in a new environment, day in and day out. I can make what I might think is a meaningful connection with somebody on a Thursday. On a Friday, they're at work and I'm 500 miles away. You know what I mean? Right. So it's like, it's enjoyable and I love doing it, but outside of, the however many people are on that bus with you, your band and your crew, there's nobody that is there to be your friend.
Right.
Because you're gone the next day. You've got to make all these new connections. It's kind of like being the kid that moved around a bunch because his dad was in the military or whatever. Right. Except for it's every day.
Right.
Unfortunately, we're able to go home. We've got our social circles built up here, and we're lucky enough that there are people, that I've come back to. I go to a place one day, and then another year later, I come back, and they're back, and they're my friend again. Right. But that next day, you might not have any friends. So it did kind of, I think we attached ourselves to it because of that mentality. We've always discussed that.
Because
it is kind of a lonely existence.
It is a musician experience,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
That's what happens when you are touring and working as much as you are.
Yeah, it's very much like the most fun loneliness you can have. Not to say that loneliness always means a bad thing, but it definitely is.
It is not in a place of melancholy.
Yeah.
It is an acknowledgement that that's the lifestyle.
There's no familiarity, there's no comfort on the road. There never is.
Right.
And when there is, that's when you know something's about to go wrong.
Right.
Yeah, a wheel's gonna fall off your vehicle or something.
Right. So now that we know how the Lonely Ones came about, is there anything that you can give a little insight as far as new things that the Lonely Ones are not, necessarily bringing from Bubba Flex, but because you have that familiarity of your musicians are still the same. What is new that you have concocted up?
I guess probably the style of the music we had is definitely noticeable tinges of Boba Flex in it. It's not going to be wholly unfamiliar to somebody that was a fan of Boba Flex, because Marty and Sean were the primary lyricists and melody writers and did a lot of the musical writing as well. That being said, in the Lonely Ones, Marty still is probably the primary melody writer, lyric writer, although Jake does quite a bit as well. And Marty also writes quite a bit of music, but Jake and I also have very polar opposite musical influences that we write from, that we've kind of incorporated into that big hooky chorus Boba Flex kind of thing that Marty is so adept at. I take a lot of influence from bands like Thin Lizzy and Big Star and early 70s Aerosmith, stuff like that. Jake takes a lot of influence from bands like In Flames and Periphery and very progressive modern metal bands that I never listened to until now.
All right.
So there's tinges of those two polar opposites that kind of meet at that equator that was Marty's primary writing output.
All right. Sounds great. So I think that we have touched in a lot of different aspects of your project, and I am excited to see your band debut.
Yeah.
And because I do appreciate the videos and the singles so far, and I'm looking forward to the live performance because that is something that you guys always done so well.
Yeah.
And I thank you. I appreciate that.
Of course.
Appreciate your time.
Thank you for coming out. Yeah.
And I hope that everybody can reach out to you through your Facebook page.
Facebook, Instagram,
once
Twitter,
they see this, yes. When they see this, if they want to go ahead and comment on something.
Yeah.
You're always so gracious about reaching out to your fans, and I appreciate that as well.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jymmy.